Welcome to Feel the Heat, a 5 Reasons Sports Network Miami Heat podcast. Hosted by Allana Tachauer and Michael Christian. This is your one-stop listen for all things Miami Heat culture, past, present, and future, on and off the court.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 14 of Feel the Heat. I am wearing slightly different headphones tonight, and I'm just going to mention this in case the audio sucks. It is not Michael's fault, although I should blame him. Michael, besides being very sassy, how are you this morning?
I'm bummed. I'm really bummed. My favorite NBA team ever lost game 1 of the NBA Finals last night, and I was just really hoping that, for the city, for the crowd of people, for the wholesomeness that is Milwaukee and that whole mid-northern corridor of the United States, I was hoping they could pull out that win, but instead it goes to these young upstart hipsters down in Phoenix, and I don't even know.
You might be the only Heat fan in existence that is rooting for the Milwaukee Bucks. Could you care to explain yourself?
No, honestly, I still hate the city of Milwaukee because I'm still salty about 4-0, right? 100%. I'm not going to back down from that. There's no other reason. I don't know anything about them other than cheese, and they swept the Heat 4-0. Outside of that, I don't know much else about the city, but I'm still salty. I do actually think that the Bucks were going to win this series. I thought they had a really good chance. I'm not saying the series is over, but game 1 did not look close at all.
Michael, in fact, sent me a somewhat cocky sounding text message that the Bucks were going to take game 1, and I, being the sweetheart that I am, didn't want to rub in the loss, so I left it alone. But now that we're recording, I may as well just go in on you. Okay, you really thought you had it, huh?
But time out. It wasn't cocky. I said that I think it's a pretty even series and that the Bucks have a chance. And let's not act like either of us picked the series winner for anything more than our own emotions.
I don't understand why you're rooting for the Bucks for your own emotions.
Sometimes I just like being a contrarian. I'm sure you know.
So you're trying to start trouble, basically.
No, because it's not like I'm going to go out there and tweet about it.
So you're a down low Bucks fan, except for right now in this pod.
Yeah, I don't want it to be on like in text form. Right, I'll say it in audio form, and then I'll just take it back later if they do anything else to the Heat.
So very fair weather fan then.
When it comes to other teams that honestly I don't really care about, absolutely. Look, at the end of the day, the Suns win in 4, the Bucks win in 4, or the Suns win in 7. I don't care. None of this really matters to me. It's just kind of fun to be like, oh, cool, there's some good games, but I don't care.
Well, I care. And you know what? This is a little bit further down on the rundown than I expected, but let's just go ahead and say this. What are your predictions for this series?
Wow, you're jumping straight to that. We're not even going to break down anything that happened.
We are. We can circle back, but now that you put that out there.
Okay. My prediction for the series, Bucks in 4. Can I still say that?
Sure, Michael.
No,
You're gonna be wrong anyway. So
here's what I'm gonna do. No, you ready? Here's what I'm gonna do. You ready for the real prediction? If the Bucks win,
don't be salty because don't be salty.
No. Time out.
I outsmarted.
I'm saying
y'all.
If the Bucks win, it'll be in 7. If not, it'll be the Suns.
So Michael's still salty about my very correct predictions along the way. I'm going Suns in 6.
What very correct prediction? I'm sorry.
Almost all of them. In fact, I would like to go back and see what I've said because I think I was spot on for almost every series.
Oh, you mean like the Hawks one too?
I don't know what you're referring to.
And like, no, because I want to go back to the original one, right? The first series prediction we ever did.
Then,
if it's going to be the Heat, you said in 7. Right, but instead it was Bucks in 4.
Correct. So the if.
So you still
didn't hold true, so I was right.
So then I'm saying if the Bucks are going to win,
that's
it's
fine.
Be in 7.
You can steal my shtick.
So then my prediction is right.
Okay, go ahead. We'll both be right then.
How can we both be right?
Because you said if.
Oh, okay.
and I said Suns in 6. So the Suns will take it in 6, and then you will be okay with your prediction because you added the if.
You want real prediction? This is coming after one game, so it's kind of unfair, but real prediction?
Real prediction.
I'm genuinely agreeing with you. I think Suns in 6, and I think it's unfair because we've seen one game. We see how it goes.
I already said that. It's somewhere on my Twitter. So this is not because of game 1.
Right. You made the prediction beforehand. I will give you that credit. You've also been following your heart and you've gotten lucky, right? Like, geez.
I do not believe in luck.
But I think the Suns just look like the better team right now. I think they can also hit some rough times if they're not hitting their shots. And I think the Bucks can figure something out defensively because I still think they're the better defensive team. And if they're playing up to their strengths, they'll be fine. My issue with the Bucks is I just don't have much faith in Budenholzer making those changes. Chris Paul is playing really well. This looks like he's putting all of his heart into it. So I agree with you. I think it's going to end up being Suns in 6. I just am not totally ready to count out the Bucks, but game 1 did not look good. So
would you like to share the outlandish takes that you had off air? I'm giving you the option. I don't want to throw you under the bus. You had two very outlandish takes. You did. One included a foul that happened, and the other included our enemy Pat Bev.
Okay, so my first one was I didn't like the Chris Paul move where he like kind of swept underneath Giannis. I don't think he was trying to purposefully injure Giannis. In my head, I choose to believe that no NBA player ever wants to injure someone else. If it does, it's like a crazy like rage moment that's just completely out there. I don't think anybody wants to injure another player. I think sometimes they get upset. I love Pat Beverly. That was disgusting.
It was because then you made another claim.
Hold on. Can I say my stuff? I don't think Chris Paul was trying to. That's a different show. I don't think Chris Paul was trying to injure Giannis. I just didn't like the move. It's like in football, you have cut blocks that you can make. I think technically it's not called a cut block because that's illegal. But you can the ball is hiked. The offensive lineman can dive straight at the defensive player's legs. It's a legal block. You can't do it if they're engaged with someone else, but you can do it right off the set. I don't like that. It's very dangerous for the defensive player. Like you can blow out their knee. Their whole career might be done at that point. Like it's messed up. Chris Paul's move was a dangerous move. He knew that he was trying to draw the foul. He wasn't trying to get anybody hurt, but I just don't like it. There's other ways to do it. And Chris Paul has a history of making moves like that. Chris Paul is a very competitive player as well. Chris Paul talks a lot. And the other claim that I made, I'll say it because you're going to make me go ahead.
Do not stop listening to this pod after you hear this because we are quickly going to move past it. But I just want Michael to say this. So we don't want to lose listeners over this.
But you, okay. So then you sure you want me to say this? Because you told me to say this.
Go ahead. I want people to know how your brain works and in what dark
I am just saying Patrick Beverly is a dirty version of Chris Paul. And by dirty, I mean dirty playing. Like Patrick Beverly will run across the court in the middle of a timeout and shove a guy, right? He'll get a couple pokes into the body and, if I'm going for the steal by a head, I don't care. That's Patrick Beverly. Chris Paul talks just as much. Chris Paul is just as competitive and he's gotten under the skin of just as many NBA players. It's just Chris Paul isn't as dirty as Patrick Beverly.
I would never, ever put those two in the same sentence.
I actually think that there's a lot more people out there that would agree with my take right
All
there.
All right, let's actually see. Yes. Y'all let us know.
Sure, let's have everybody flood through. We're just, again, these are all people that are like, oh, it's Allana on the podcast. I'm going to support everything she says blindly.
I'm sorry. I don't think anyone does that. I just happen to make very good points, Michael.
Do you want to move on or do you want to keep sticking on this in case people hate our podcast now and don't want to listen anymore?
I would like to move on. Okay. I think really the two things I would like to say, I don't know what Giannis did with his knee. I was terrified when I heard he was coming back. I am so glad he looked as good as he did. He looked like he had normal bounce. He didn't seem kind of hesitant on anything he was doing. I was holding my breath a little bit, but he looked great out there. So props to whoever took care of that, however they took care of it. Obviously him for upkeeping his body. And the other thing I'll say is Devin Booker is an absolute joy to watch. And I could watch that man hoop literally all day.
I have Devin Booker high on my list. I have other players higher in terms of like pure enjoyment. But yeah, no, he's playing really well. He deserves it. I think the thing with Devin Booker is, and I've said this before, everybody was ready for Booker to move on. Everybody was just waiting for him to get out of Phoenix, go to a more relevant team and make something happen. He found a way to make it happen in Phoenix. A lot of that goes to Chris Paul. A lot of that goes to Jay Crowder, who is instrumental right now. And Jay Crowder is a great defender against the Bucks and Giannis. Like, that's what he does. James Jones and the things that he's done as the GM. But Devin Booker's found a way to step up. He's found a way to play well when a lot of people thought he needs a lot of other pieces to win. He's doing it as the main guy, and he is the main guy. So kudos to him. Kudos to the Suns, who are looking good. They did lose Saric, which is unfortunate. I am not a Saric fan. It sucks watching any player go down, though, especially in the finals. So that kind of sucks. I don't think it's really going to affect them all that much, personally, just because I don't think Saric plays that big a role for the Phoenix Suns. Not enough to make a difference in the series, but we'll see where it goes from here. I think Giannis is going to continue to get better, though, which is, my one worry if I was a Suns fan, because he did not play very well. In terms of, being aggressive, getting a ton of shots up. If he can take some of Middleton's shots away, because Middleton shot way too many, I mean, you might be looking at a whole different Bucks team. It might slow the game down a bit to the point that the Suns are uncomfortable. So I'd be interested to see how it goes.
Yeah, I think for me, I just don't have as much faith in the Bucks. I think even though parts of them stay consistent and you kind of know what to expect, I also feel like you never know any given night how certain guys are going to play. Middleton, I think, got, really hot and cocky, and he didn't come out great. PJ Tucker has a tendency to get really frustrated with himself. I don't think it really needs to be said that Bud is a disaster. So I would not be too confident in them. But again, it might be my personal bias.
Which I'm glad you're admitting to, because my goodness, I feel like even if the Bucks won a game, you'd still come back and be like, but it's fine. The Suns let them have it on purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that's what you do. But enough about these finals. That, again, look, I know you have a rooting interest in the Suns. I will admit I have a rooting interest in the Bucks only because I want to be against what everyone is saying. But at the end of the day, you and I both know we don't really care. Like, it doesn't matter to us. At least it doesn't matter to me. Like,
it matters to me.
So if the
I'm
Suns
fully
lose,
invested.
so if the Suns lose, you're gonna come out and you're gonna be upset and frustrated.
Oh,
if the Suns lose.
Absolutely.
I just be like, well, that happened.
No, this team deserves this, and I want it so bad for them.
What makes them deserve it more than the Bucks, though?
I don't find the Bucks likable, and that's not saying that I don't see the talent and that I don't want Giannis to succeed.
But we're talking about deserving.
In my opinion, I'm not saying I'm just saying for me, I think that they deserve it through everything that they've been through, and I just want this so bad for Chris Paul. So then, your opinion, the likability of a team immediately correlates with how badly you think they deserve to win. Me personally. Right. That's what I'm asking. Yeah. Okay. So, because now we're all finding out new things, right? All that matters is the likability of the team. The team is unlikable. Did I say all that matters?
Outside of the Heat, right? If you like a team, you will think they deserve to win. No, I mean, I don't think that's the standalone factor. I think that they're likable for a reason. And I think part of that is the work ethic and the fact that Chris Paul has done everything but this. Like, people are rooting for them for a reason. I don't stand alone here. There's a lot of people also rooting against Chris Paul, though. And you do have to admit that. There is a decent amount of people out there that don't like Chris Paul. No, and I have seen that. I don't understand it personally, but I have a lot of people that I don't like that I'm sure people think I'm crazy for. So to each their own. Chris Middleton? No, you don't dislike Chris Middleton like I do. No, I don't really have a problem. I can't really think of anyone off the top of my head. Who's an NBA player right now that if you're like, I don't like this NBA
Blake
player.
Griffin. Hate him.
Oh, that's right. Man, that was so random.
It wasn't random. There are so many reasons, but we are very much getting off track. Let me reel us back in to what we get to enjoy after the finals, which is Olympic basketball.
Yes.
I, for one, am hyped. I don't know how you feel.
I'm excited. I think it's unfortunate how early some of the games are. I'd love to stay up and watch them, but I'm not one of those people that's like, all right, I got 4 hours of sleep. I'm good to go. Like I need my sleep.
I would
kind of a diva that way.
happily give up sleep as long as I get like 5 hours, I'm okay.
Now, like when it's the bigger games, I might watch those. I think, isn't it like super early in the morning sometimes? It's like 3 or 4
Some
in the
of
morning.
them, yeah. I have to pull up the schedule. It was kind of hard to find. I feel like I've been piecing it together here and there.
Yeah, it's a little tough. But yeah, the Olympics are coming up. Exciting for the Olympics are coming up. There's a couple of things that I don't even think we've gotten a chance to talk about in concerns with the Olympics. I know we've talked about Bam being on the Olympic roster, but Eric Spoelstra is the head coach of the select team, which is basically the team they play against in practice. Isn't he also an assistant on the Olympic staff? I think
Correct.
That also comes out. And there is another special someone on that select team roster. The guy who was Boy Wonder, now everybody's just like completely pushed him off the ledge. Tyler Herro on the select roster, able to be there, able to play against some really high caliber players. I think it's a really good thing. I'm excited about it. But what did you think?
I'm excited about it. I think it could only be good for him and his career. I think the more reps he gets in, the better. And I think being around that roster will definitely rub off on him. In that, though, Bam had an interesting quote, and I would like to hear your opinion because I have only seen one person agree with me so far. Not to say that there's not others out there, but the tail end of Bam's quote said that Tyler would be getting to watch people's work ethic and how they go about their professional business. Did you take that to mean anything in particular?
I don't think it's him saying, Tyler, you don't work hard enough. Watch these guys and see what needs to happen. But I also can't sit here and assuredly say that it doesn't mean that. Now, I can go back and I remember when we first talked about, I don't remember which deal it was. I think it was the Chipotle deal or something for Tyler. And there were some reports out there talking about what people thought about Tyler and his work ethic and the way that all was going. And I remember telling you that it feels a little weird and that I didn't care what he does off the court. I don't care how many sponsorships he has. I don't care what he does in his personal life. I just want him to come into the building and work, right? As long as that's happening, as long as the team is happy with that, I don't care about anything else. If the team or players felt like Tyler wasn't working as hard, I don't know this to be true or not, but if they thought that, then this is 100,000 times better for him than I originally thought. Because it's going to really show to him like this is a whole different level. You saw a bit of it in the bubble playoffs. You didn't play that great the second season. Like, you need to learn this. If it's coming from Bam, then I'm okay with it. Right? Like, you talked about Bam taking more of a leadership role. Talk your talk, do your thing. And you know it comes from a place where he means it because Bam is a working guy. He's a work ethic kind of guy. Right? So that's his thing. So I don't think it means that he's calling out Tyler and saying, Tyler, you're not working hard enough. But like I said, I also don't know for certain that it's not. Like, that's tricky. If we had the inside information, I think we could know. But maybe Tyler wasn't working all that hard on his game this past season. I don't know.
When I first saw the quote, I did not think anything of it. And then, as Heat Twitter does, they ran with it and it became this enormous thing of Bam calling out Tyler. And again, I'm not trying to say that, this person was the only person I saw that agreed with me or that does agree with me. But personally, the only person that I saw speak the way that I saw it was Greg. Greg said that people were making too big of a deal of it. And I agreed. I thought, Bam was just kind of saying it matter-of-factly of, hey, he's a young kid. He's very early on in his career. He gets this great opportunity to be around veterans and high caliber guys on this team and learn a thing or two from him. I think he spoke about him because they're teammates. I think he spoke about him because he's young and because he is on the select team. So for me, I didn't really get the sense that he was purposefully trying to call out Tyler. Now, to your point, I obviously don't know what happened behind the scenes, and maybe he didn't work hard enough. And if in that case, yeah, that quote changes. But I think without knowing that, to me, Bam could have said that about any young guy on his roster, and no one would have, kind of made it into such a big deal. At this point, I think people love to hate Tyler. And I think regardless of what is said and who says it, that's just the narrative that they're going to run with. What I found interesting, though, and I think this came out earlier today, someone had asked Tyler kind of about his second year regression, and he basically said that he doesn't think he regressed, which I was a little bit surprised in. I understand, you're not going to sit there and say, hey, I got worse as a player. But to me, the way that he came off was kind of not necessarily admitting that he didn't have a great season. And again, I have been in support of Tyler. I don't think that this showcases what he can do. I think it was a weird year for everybody. I think there was injuries. I think, you compared this run to the bubble run, but at the end of the day, he didn't have a good season. And so I thought it was kind of a stronger statement than I was expecting from him.
I think it's tricky. I think what happens was Tyler's jump from year 1 to year 2, if you just look at season stats, isn't a big jump, but I wouldn't say it's down. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say he had a down season. If you look at, right, if you were just to look at the box scores, you look at his stats, it is up slightly, but it is up, right? So you're thinking, okay, how can the season be worse? I think a lot of it is what we've talked about before, is the expectations that people put on Tyler, right? Everybody was expecting this much bigger leap that he just didn't take. Not the first Heat player to do that, admittedly. I love Bam with all my heart. Like, I think that guy's going to be great. His jump this year wasn't what many of us expected. But I think it's also looking at what happened in the bubble, because it's not like he went one season to a second. He went one season where he didn't really play that many games either because he got hurt, to a bubble run where he was lights out, to a second season where it was so up and down. None of us really knew what was going to happen. So one night you could get 25 points from Tyler. The next night you could get 7. And that's not what you're looking for on a team where everyone is playing inconsistent, right? Yes, the whole team did a lot of the things, but it doesn't help when Tyler's doing it too, right? You can't help onto that. So I think from his point of view, he's not lying. He didn't really regress. It's not like he sat there and got worse.
I agree with that. And I don't think he necessarily should have come out and said, yeah, my game got so much worse, or I really failed this season. But to me, and again, this is just, it was one part of the quote, but I found his language stronger than I would have expected from him. And part of me wonders if that is because he's kind of fed up with the narrative being kind of, passed around about him. We have said this time and time again, before the trade deadline, both him and Duncan, it was noticeable that they were being affected by what was being said out there. And I mean, I would not put it past anyone to be affected by kind of what Tyler has gone through this year, going from, a fandom that basically adored him and was really excited about him and his growth in Miami, to now wanting to get rid of him at literally any cost. So, I don't know if that had to do with it, but I am curious to see obviously how his on-court, performance improves, but also kind of how his personality and just the way that he carries himself, if that changes at all, kind of after being around these guys in the Olympics.
Yeah. And I think the part of the thing, like you were saying with that quote too, is there were other ways it could have been handled, right? There's other things he could have said. So you look at a guy like Jimmy, for example. Let's say Jimmy has a great year. Jimmy comes back the next year and it's maybe marginally better, if not marginally worse. And somebody asks him, hey, do you have any explanation for the regression? I feel like Jimmy would have known to turn it around to be something like, yeah, we regressed this year because last year we were in the finals. This year we got swept out in the first round, right? Like kind of turn it into a team thing, right? Take it off yourself, put it on that. And I'm not faulting him at all for what he said. He's defending himself. That's the way he's always carried himself. We know that about Tyler Herro, right? Like that's the way he speaks. That's what he thinks about his game. I think it wasn't the perfect way to answer it. I think there was other things he could have said or other ways to have handled it. But I agree. It's just, none of us actually know what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
So all of us get on his case and everything. None of us know what it's like to be constantly picked at for every little thing. And I understand that comes with the territory. You play a sport for a living. He's 21 years old. He makes more money than any of us will ever make in our entire lives.
I have to
combined.
say, though, I don't know if I've ever seen an entire almost fan base turn against someone so quickly for seemingly not a great reason. Because to your point, it's not like, it wasn't year 5, and from year 5 to year 6 in normal years, he completely sank. It was a weird half year to a bubble run to another weird year with injuries. And I don't know. I think, and we've talked about this, I think he is a polarizing figure. I think part of it is his personality. I don't think it helped that, he was getting famous off the court too. I think everything kind of stacked against him in that way. But I just kind of wanted to bring that quote up because, again, for me, I was a little bit surprised, but at the same time, maybe it is about time that he defends himself.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. We, and when I say we, I mean Heat fans, Heat Twitter, all this, we've built up this kind of persona and way of acting for Tyler. Like when the snarl came out, we were all about the snarl.
That was my background on my phone for like months.
Everybody was super excited and super for it. And it's us for putting that up and us for, kind of putting that out everywhere. And also him for being like, that is who I am. That is what you're going to get. To a certain extent too, if that's the way you're going to be, when we need or want more from you, we expect more from you. Because you came out here and you snarled. You were big, tough guy. Cool. Love it. Carry yourself that way if you want to. But you got to also expect it from the other end. So that's what I'm saying. It's this weird middle ground of, I think everybody picks on him way too much, but I also think the personality and the way he carries himself has very much invited that. You want all that praise, you're also going to get a lot of the crap. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes with him. Like, will he even be wearing a Heat jersey next season? We don't know. Everybody is kind of feeling like it's not going to be that way. Personally, I would like him to stay a member of the Miami Heat just because I think he can turn it around, and I want to prove all those people that think he can't turn around that he can't. But if they do trade him, I'm really not going to be upset about it. I'm just going to say, hey, you know what? It happened. The team did what they thought was best for them. We'll move forward. I don't think you'll be upset if they trade him either, or if they keep him.
No, I think, I'm happy to do whatever is best for the team. I also would love him to stay and kind of prove himself, but from everything I've been hearing, I am not confident that he will be around. But you did tee me up very nicely for my next topic here, because with all this talk about Bam and kind of going along with the fact that obviously Chris Paul has greatly impacted some guys on the Suns roster, is the answer to our problem basically just a better point guard for Bam? Is that it? Is it that simple?
So we've talked about this before, because I remember Ariel had tweeted it out, right?
And Ethan now kind of brought it up again.
Yeah, Ethan brought it up again. So, and I got a chance to kind of talk about it. So I actually am going to let you go first on this one, because I've already spoken my piece on it.
I think it'll help. I think it is something we're missing. Do I think that's what is prohibiting Bam from being the Bam that we want? No. I think that if he needs someone to push him, Jimmy should have already been that. And obviously I don't mean on the court, and I don't mean kind of in the role that, for example, Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton are kind of linking up in. I don't mean that, but I'm saying if what he needs is an outside source to make him better, I think Jimmy should have already played a big enough role in that. So I think it'll improve his game. And I think if we're talking about point guards and if it is Kyle Lowry, I've said from the start, I think he can make a huge difference for both Bam and Jimmy. I think in terms of the playmaking, I think he's going to make them better. But I think that Bam needs to work on other things before getting a point guard will solve all our problems.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that too, because I think what we look for and what we expect and want out of Bam's game, and you got to give DeAndre Ayton a lot of credit. He's playing great. He deserves to be where he's at. I mean, he's putting up the stats. He's showing up when it matters. But what we want and expect from Bam, in my opinion, is more than DeAndre Ayton. Like DeAndre Ayton is feeding off of Chris Paul almost entirely. And when Chris Paul's not there, I wouldn't be confident that DeAndre Ayton's going to put up numbers like that. What I want from Bam and what I expect from Bam is for him to be able to do that with or without the point guard, for him to have those moments. And it's that aggressiveness. It's that looking towards the basket, making plays happen for himself, and a sort of aggressiveness in the low block, both offensively and defensively, against people that are slightly bigger than him. And I think he is going to get there, but I don't think that is going to come from a point guard. Do I think a point guard could elevate his play? For sure. I think having somebody feed him the ball like that, knowing when to run the pick and rolls and throw up an alley-oop, that's all going to work perfectly with Bam. But those other steps I think that he needs to take are much more important than what he would get from someone like a Kyle Lowry. So I see the comparisons like we've said before. I expect, and genuinely think we will get more from Bam than we're seeing from Ayton with Chris Paul.
Regardless of Kyle Lowry. To keep in mind there is, at the end of the day, Spo runs a positionless system. Sometimes guys kind of revert back to what they should be, in certain plays and against certain teams. But at the end of the day, I don't think that's being taken into account when you are trying to make the comparison between Chris Paul and what Kyle Lowry could do. So I think that also is a little bit problematic. I think there's kind of two schools of thought of, for example, a video came out today of Bam running point, right? And everyone's like, oh, point Bam's back. And that's great. But is it really what you want from Bam when you're talking about all the other ways that you want him to improve? There's only so much he can focus on. And I think he can be a well-rounded player, and I think he can be multidimensional. But at the end of the day, you need to kind of pick and choose what you want from him. And that is a little bit tricky in Spo's system.
Yeah, it'll be tricky. I think Spo's system is going to have to get reworked a bit, regardless of what happens with Duncan Robinson. I think he's going to figure something out. I think just right now, I just think it's not really totally there. I think it was a lot of, let's try the same thing again. We got pieces that should work like they did last year, and then they didn't. Right? You got a guy to replace Jay Crowder. It wasn't the same. Trevor Ariza played really well, but he didn't give you the same kind of things that Jay Crowder did. It's just going to be kind of difficult and up and down to see where the Heat go from here. I know you have another guy that you wanted to talk about that Heat Twitter has been talking about, but I think we should leave that one for next week. I'll just leave it as a little teaser due to time and some other things. One guy that I didn't want to bring up before our last off-court antics is I saw this really great tweet today by Tony Fiorentino speaking about the latest person to come into the Heat camp, right? The latest person to come work for the Heat summer camp and everything like that would bring the kids in. You know what he said? Do you know what he said? Miami guard Victor Oladipo. And I got so excited again because I know that it doesn't mean anything, but I want him back so bad.
I think I saw something that said he probably won't be back till December, which
that's fine. You know how I feel about the regular season.
But I don't think he'll be back in a Miami Heat jersey.
But I want him.
You really have that much faith in him that the injury problems won't continue?
I am not trying to sign him to a lot of money, but I think you can give him a kind of show it, prove it deal, and you can see where it goes. In my opinion, NBA teams, championship teams, are often made off of those boom or bust transactions, off of those boom or bust moves, right? You obviously need your stars. Without them, you're not going to win. But you need those moves that are either going to take you over the top or they might end up sinking you. One example is, and I will say this plainly, the Suns getting Chris Paul was not a guaranteed move. I know that the Suns are playing well right now, but there is no shot anybody looks at the way the Suns were playing, regardless of that bubble run where they won a bunch in a row, says, oh, you throw Chris Paul on there, they're absolutely going to the finals.
The problem, though, is that Depot was at some point a star. So if they're bringing him on, and they're not going to bring him on as that star, that is not at the top of their list in any way, shape, or form. How does that work? You're bringing him in on this kind of we'll see what happens type of deal, but he's not that guy. He is a star.
And if he's going to go, if somebody offers him star money, if somebody offers him a ton of cash in a contract, he should go take it. And I will be happy for him. I will still root for him. And I think that's great. I'm not sure that will happen considering the injury history.
I don't think it will happen, games. But I also just don't think that for us, that's going to move the needle.
I think it would help a lot just because I think there's so much about his game that would free up other things, right? The ability to drive, which almost no one on this team has right now. The ability to defend the perimeter really well without needing
I don't
to
trust
depend on
that
them.
he can stay healthy and B,
do
that like he used to be able to.
I don't know if he can stay healthy. I know the defense he can still do. I know that he can do that one. The offense is going to be a work in progress, fine. But what I'm saying is if Depot is healthy, we saw 4 games fit, it was a bit up and down at moments, but you saw everything he could do even when he wasn't scoring. I'm always going to fall back on one of those early possessions they had against, I think it was the Warriors at home in Miami. And you had Trevor Ariza, Victor Oladipo, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and I think one other person. I don't remember who the other person was. But their defense, the switching, the way they were getting to the ball back and forth was so exciting. And I remember Heat Twitter losing their minds because it was just great to watch all that. I think he can do that. I think he can find a way to stay healthy. And that is obviously biased by the fact that I like Victor Oladipo. If they don't sign him, I understand. But if he's willing to take lower money to prove that he belongs here in Miami, which is where he has said he wants to be, I don't see any reason to not take that chance unless you've got a for sure whale on the horizon. Especially with the way this offseason is shaping up, at a certain point, you got to be like, okay, let's see what we can get. If it's cheap, you got to take it. So I don't know. That's just kind of the way I feel about it. I just got excited looking at that tweet that called the Miami Heat guard Victor Oladipo. I'm going to let you sit in your
excitement then.
It was fun.
I'm happy for you. But you know what was even more fun? Did you see the Jimmy and Bam commercial? That was a work of art.
A work of art?
Michael doesn't seem too impressed. Were you not happy about that?
I thought it was funny because it was very much NBA players acting. Like there were some moments where you could tell the timing was not exactly what it should have been. Like right at the end when Jimmy says, "Oh, this is your fault." And then it's like a pause and the Bam's like, "What?" And then it just ends. It's like, okay, like we could have probably cut
it was
that
so
possible.
Cute though.
It was
chemistry.
Fun. I'm just curious as to why they picked them. How many of these Jungle Cruise commercials do they have with other players?
I have no idea. This came out of nowhere. At first, I thought people were just like making stuff up that they were going to be in a commercial, and then all of a sudden, I saw it pop up on my timeline. I'm like, what is this?
Right, because this is like, so this is Disney. I was like, hey, we want Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was just because it's like, hey, you guys were in the finals last year when it was here at Disney,
Whatever
so we'll give it to you again.
Prompted this project, I'm all about it. But let me ask you a question. What 2 Heat players would you put in a commercial together? Okay. They didn't have to play on the same team at the same time, or just any 2 Heat players.
And we're talking about for comedy here?
Yeah, I guess.
Like we want a fun dynamic?
Yeah.
Man, that's a tough one. I'm going to let you go because I feel like you know, because this is your question. So you can go first because I got to think about it.
I have to admit, this is a tiny bit influenced by the Norris Cole pod that I just listened to.
I knew you were going to say that.
He's hilarious. And I was in the Horizon League when he was at Cleveland State. So I've seen him kind of over the years. Him and Birdman, I would die of happiness. That duo would it would be game over for me. I cannot think of a better pairing.
Man, that's probably a good pairing. I don't know. I want to have Gary Payton in it just because I know Gary Payton is a character. And then I'm thinking of someone else. Oh, okay. I got my other one. Ray Allen, just because I think Ray Allen's a sneakily good actor.
He's probably sneakily funny too.
I mean, you saw the movie Ray Allen was in, right? Jesus Shuttlesworth.
Of course.
I mean, he was good in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of moments where it's like, okay, this could be better, but it's fine. I still think he did a better job acting than Michael Jordan did with the Looney Tunes, right? So I think those 2 would actually be a lot of fun, especially because they're a little bit older too. And they're right on. I was going to say,
I love that you went kind of old school, and then I'm like, well, I just went with the 2 most wild choices I could have.
Well, made. Yeah, that's because you're a new Heat fan. Like you just jumped on not too long ago. We all know that.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we will leave you here. It's a new month, which means you get us on live stream. I don't know if we're going to do next week or the week after, but Clutch Corner is coming back next week, so y'all can watch out for that. Any last words, Michael?
Last words, go Bucks.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to Feel the Heat. Can't get enough of your hosts? Follow Allana at Allana Tachauer, Tachauer, and Michael at Michael5RSN on Twitter and Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe.